And today on our second special episode of Quality Digest Live from IMTS, we bring you a look at the EpiPen pricing controversy from a different perspective.
That's right, plus continuing coverage of the latest happenings here from the show. All that and more when we come back.
Today's episode of Quality Digest Live is sponsored and filmed in Nikon Metrology's booth at IMTS. This year they are showcasing their automation capabilities with a strong focus on inline inspection solutions featuring their exclusive laser radar and laser scanners. Be sure to stop by booth E5060 for a live demonstration of this innovative technology. And welcome back to Quality Digest Live for September 14th, 2016. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
He is, and I am Quality Digest publisher Mike Richmond. Well, as you can see, we're coming to you today from the booth of Nikon Metrology, who has been, as always, an exemplary partner and host for us here on this episode of Quality Digest Live. Well, later in today's show, we're going to be bringing you a tech corner featuring Nikon Metrology's laser radar, showcasing automated inline inspection. So stay tuned for that one coming up here in just about 15 minutes or so. Dirk will be bringing that to you soon. Well, it's day 3 here at IMTS in Chicago, of course, and of course we continue to see great new technologies and tools that manufacturers are using to, increase efficiencies and improve their quality. This is always a great week to look and to listen and to learn for really everyone and anyone in the quality industry. We've certainly seen and heard and witnessed a lot of great things here this week so far. We're only about halfway through. However, believe it or not, it's hard to imagine when you're here at McCormick Place in Chicago. There's more than just IMTS happening this week. For example, in today's issue of Quality Digest Daily, we presented an article from Bill Levinson that dives into an issue and a company that's generating a lot of chatter and controversy, titled Mylan's Self-Created Risks. It ran earlier today in Quality Digest Daily. Now, we know Bill Levinson pretty well. Yep. Bill Levinson is hardly what you would call a shrinking violet. He has a pretty powerful writing voice, and it's usually pretty direct, yeah, to the point of almost being controversial or confrontational, I think. And here he really gives it to Mylan full blast, and probably the umbrage that he gives him is probably pretty well deserved.
Yeah, he wouldn't be the first to pile on.
No. But again, it's well deserved. As most of us know by now, Mylan is a pharmaceutical company that makes, among other products, the EpiPen, epinephrine auto-injector device that helps counter the potentially deadly effects of anaphylactic shock, as we know. For those of us that have severe allergies, many people have severe allergies, epinephrine is really a lifesaver. It's saved many lives over the course of time, and the auto-injector is a very efficient way to deliver a dose of epinephrine.
That's just the one you take it, hit a button and boom.
You don't need any skill or anything. You just use it and bang, and you get your dose right there. Now, of course, it's a great drug. However, Mylan has gotten a lot of blowback recently for raising the price of their EpiPen to a whopping $608 per pair, so $304
right
for each EpiPen. Okay, think about that, $608 for the pair. Now, this is for a simple device, a very simple device, containing approximately $1 worth of epinephrine drug in each one.
Right.
So $1 worth of drug, and they're charging $304 for each one.
And by the way, Mylan doesn't make the epinephrine. They make the auto injector.
They make the auto injector. They make the delivery system. They make the EpiPen, right? And we're going to get to that in a minute because this is important. As Levinson explains in his article, although Mylan's unique design for the EpiPen is patented, epinephrine is not. It was actually synthesized 100 years ago, so it can't be patented, right? It's not patentable anymore. The concept of an auto injector was patented more than 50 years ago by an inventor by the name of George Hine as well. So that's no longer under patent. So neither the drug nor that particular type of delivery system, an auto injector, is patented.
Right.
Okay. So you think about that and you wonder, okay, what's really going on here? The point is that there's nothing stopping competitors, any competitor anywhere, from coming into the market and taking Mylan on. And as a matter of fact, they already are. There's already competitors that are doing this. And as Levinson writes, you can count on more coming in. with this latest news from Mylan. Their blustery price increase, which they then quickly backed off from in the form of discounts and a forthcoming rollout of a generic EpiPen, illustrates that their position is vulnerable given the limited patent situation. I mean, you look at where their patent situation is, you understand why the vulnerability is there, right?
Right.
Another point, Mylan CEO Heather Bresch blamed the pricing increase on the 4 or 5 hands, as she call it, that the product touches before it reaches the consumer. In other words, the supply chain is inefficient and adds cost rather than value to the final delivery to the customer. In fact, according to Bresch's calculations, more than 50% of the cost of the EpiPen goes to the suppliers in terms of the cost of that thing. So Muda is evident, it's excessive, and Muda should not be the responsibility of the customer, of course. So one would think, of course, that the market would take care of this, right? I mean, you think that eventually others will come in and will compete with Mylan and they'll beat them on price and other things. But as usual, Levinson pulls from that some books that formulate his argument in an interesting way, because he doesn't just put this out there, he also points to a few things that you wouldn't necessarily think would apply to the situation. For instance, he talks about Clausewitz's book On War, which speaks to how in competitive markets like war, for instance, they don't take place in a vacuum. I mean, actions don't just happen, right? I mean, you have something you're doing, your competitor or your enemy reacts to that, so it doesn't happen in a vacuum. And in this case, obviously, that price increase isn't happening in a vacuum. Others are going to come in and they're going to take them to lunch. Sun Tzu's Art of War is another one he speaks to. He speaks to, again, that blustery thing about revealing weakness. You know, it assumes a blustery attitude, like a big price increase on a product that's not truly patent protected and has production inefficiencies, and then retreating in the face of pressure. So it's kind of an invitation of foes to pounce on that. And finally, of course, who does he refer to?
Henry Ford.
Henry Ford.
Oh, was it right?
That's
right.
There you go.
I knew it with Bill Levinson, Henry Ford.
Henry Ford,
gotta be in there.
My Life and Work. Everything and everybody must produce or get out is the quote he takes from Henry Ford's Life and Work, meaning that inefficiencies in the supply chain have to be eliminated. If somebody's not contributing to value and creating value on a product, then they shouldn't be producing that product, and they should get out of the process of bringing it to the customer and delivering value. So the bottom line here is that, you know, he's saying there's Muda in this whole process, and that it's not an efficient way to bring this particular type of a drug to the market. And because of that, and because of the Muda in their supply chain, and because of their pricing increase, which was intended to kind of bluster and bluff people out, it's only going to invite more competition, hurt them in the long run, and hurt the customers too.
Yeah. It's interesting how he brings in. If you've never read Levinson, what it's interesting is you go to our website. In our search bar, type in Bill Levinson, bring up his articles and start. Bill is very literary. He's a real history buff, and he manages to tie bits of history into particularly customer service issues.
Exactly.
And he refers to Ford a lot, because Ford really was the master of reducing waste and also giving both employees and customers what they wanted and what they needed.
Yeah, I mean, Henry Ford was really the first lean proponent. And My Life and Work, which is a book that Bill refers to a lot, was published in 1922. So we're going on 100 years now of Henry Ford understanding a lot of the things that we now call lean, or the Toyota production system, way before that ever came on board. So,
and I think Ford would have a lot to say with something like the situation with Mylan.
Yeah, he'd say perform or get out. And if you can't do it, then you shouldn't be in business. And that kind of is the moral of the story. There is you know, how are they going to solve those problems? And we'll see if they do.
Right. So here we are at IMTS, a show that among other things, sorry about that, that among the things looks at test and measurement, and looks at the way technology kind of affects us. So one of the stories that I wanted to cover, because it's related to technology, is a story that we read on NIST, and it had to do with ways to read really small, to measure really small particles. And it's kind of an interesting idea, and hopefully I don't mess up too much on the technology aspect of it, but essentially the issue is there is a need to measure very small particles very quickly. And NIST has come up with, in the article called An Optical Method of Sorting Nanoparticles by Size, NIST scientists have devised and modeled a unique system that allows them to take a stream of particles, a continuous stream of particles, so millions of particles, and sort them on the fly. And the way they do this is kind of interesting. They take what they call an optical standing wave. So they take a laser, and it's inside of a cavity, and it's at an angle to the stream, if I can kind of demonstrate this right. And camera here. Okay, let's do it this way. So they take a laser with a standing optical wave and a stream of particles coming in this direction. Now, one of the characteristics of this is when that happens, and the way they have it set up, this standing wave of laser, basically, of light, breaks that stream of particles. It sorts it by particle size. And the way I kind of think of this, and if you look at some of the drawings, it works kind of like a prism. Okay. We've always seen a prism. So you've got your little prism, you've got white light that comes in, and different wavelengths of light are refracted, and that's what gives you the colors of the rainbow, right? So different frequencies of light, different wavelengths of light are broken out into different paths. Right. This works kind of the same way, except instead of wavelength, it's weight. As different particles with different weights go through this beam, which is at an angle, the particles get sorted by weight. Now, one of the magical properties of this is that particles of a particular size, based on the frequency of the laser that they're using, they don't diffract. They don't go in different directions. They go straight through. And there's something interesting about that. They can tune this laser to the exact so that a particle of a specific size is the particle that goes straight through. That's kind of think of that as kind of the reference particle. So if you have a stream of particles going through, the ones going through are the particles in question. Any of the particles that deflect have a different weight. Now, where that might come in interesting, and they give an example, is suppose you have some sort of bacteriological or virological attack. And he says, let's say released in the subway, and you want to gather data on that very quickly. He says you could take a system like this, it would be sucking in air and feeding those streams of particle from that air based and tuned to a particular particle size, and they would be able to determine what antigens might be attached to that based on this sorting that goes through. Now, this is all hypothetical. I mean, not purely hypothetical. They've done some experiments with it. It's not a product yet, but it also has some real impact for, let's say, environmental sciences, where you might be able to gather particles from the air and do other types of analysis on these particles, all based on this sorting algorithm. So I hope I didn't bungle that too much for NIST, but think of it this way. Constant stream of particles in, and a sorted stream of particles, a sorted stream of particles coming out, and then each of those streams could be analyzed on their own. So interesting stuff from NIST. If you want to get more detail on it and a lot more techie stuff than I felt comfortable giving today, follow the there is no link underneath the player page. Go out to NIST. Go out to NIST and do nanoparticle sorting on NIST, and you'll come up with a real interesting article on this, which goes into a little bit more details, but some real interesting application both in health and in the environmental sciences.
So the idea is really that this is something that is used for bacteriological, virological. That's kind of the medical, way.
That's where he saw it most in being needed, is the ability to sample large volume of air. So right now, there's currently no way. There are things called optical tweezers. There are ways to go in and manually pluck out a particle to examine it, but it's really slow. This takes millions of particles and sorts them on the fly. So this allows them to do really large volume of particles, either air, or it also could be done particles in solution. So it could be done with fluids as well.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, we're going to turn now to our tech corner, because we had a really good tech corner for you here today on Nikon's laser radar. Dirk, you're going to go now, and you're going to go check that out with John Koppel, I believe, Koppel of Nikon. We're going to look at the laser radar. So guys, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm here in the booth with John Koppel, and we're going to be looking at laser radar, right?
That's right, Dirk.
And tell me a little bit about laser radar. I've seen it. I'm not really familiar with it. Is it like laser scanning, or?
It does do laser scanning. At its heart, it's really a process control tool. And this is our latest offering. This is the MV331. It has a 30-meter range, and it uses a spot to conduct measurements. So we can either do scanning, or we can extract discrete points from the parts that we're measuring.
And how's it work?
It works off of a principle called, it's either phase shift or heterodyne interferometry. That's what determines the range.
Easy for you.
So Basically what it does is we pre-program a CAD model, and the system will go out, an operator will either measure the points manually, or if we know where the laser radar is in relation to the points, the datums can be measured automatically. And from there, all of the data is collected. All of the other points that we want to be measured, all of the points that we care about, the characteristics that we care about are measured automatically.
Okay, and you have a little demo you can show us on this?
Sure,
okay.
Sure. So what you'll see here on the screen, you'll see the software.
Okay, so if you're looking at the screen capture of this, you can see in the lower right corner that video image. Doesn't look very responsive on the screen capture, but if you look here on the actual camera image that the operator would see, you can see that video is really responsive.
The laser radar points to each one of the tooling balls. That gets the laser radar into the coordinate system of the car, and then if you see on the software here, we have predefined points that it goes to measure. So after it measures the tooling balls, it's then in the coordinate system of the part, and all of these points are measured automatically, whether they're surface points, gap flush, holes, slots, threaded studs, whatever we care about. Those are all measured automatically.
And this is, are you measuring distinct points, or is this actually doing like a scan, a complete surface scan?
A little of both. So one of the things that you'll see it do here is we are taking some measurements on the C pillar of the car that you'll see. We're doing a scan right now. It measured a cylinder. Now it's measuring the C pillar. So you can see, well, you can't see the red dot as it's measuring, but on the screen here, you can see that it's doing a scan over it, and that corresponds to the model.
Yeah. No. What is the purpose? What's the purpose of the little video inset screen down here?
Okay. So that is for human interaction. If this is run completely automatically in an automated solution, this screen isn't necessary. But for people to know where to aim to establish the initial alignment, the user would aim at 3 predefined points, and from there it measures everything else automatically.
So they kind of manually steer the laser radar to point at the first tooling ball, for instance,
exactly
or something.
Right.
Okay,
that's exactly right.
Okay. And this is intended to replace? I think you said earlier, a horizontal arm or that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a very nice, it's an attractive solution to replace horizontal arm CMMs. We can generally measure all of the same points, but it's much faster. With a horizontal arm CMM, there's a retraction time where the arm has to move back and move down. There's a lot of extra moving time where there's small angular movements from the laser radar, which are very fast.
And I noticed it's mounted on a robot here. What's the purpose for that?
So this is just for show, but basically the robot is a stand. So the robot positions the laser radar so that it can get line of sight. We need line of sight. So after it moves to a position, we get line of sight to the tooling balls, it measures the tooling balls, and from there, then it measures everything else. It would then move, the car could move, or the robot could move to position 2, remeasure the tooling balls, remeasure all the points that it sees from position 2, and that just carries on.
And so is this more for, with this particular setup on the robot, is this for automating an assembly line inspection process? Is that the goal?
Yes, so we can measure directly inline, and we're doing that at several of the major automotive OEMs. We can measure inline, we can also measure beside the line, so we can measure right on the plant floor, or where customers are also installing this in the CMM room as a CMM replacement.
Okay, so I guess since we've talked replacement a couple times, I think our viewers would want to know, what is the difference, the practical difference between, or maybe operational or accuracy, whatever makes sense, between this and a CMM, or the laser radar and let's say a long-range laser scanner that we've seen in other places on the floor, obviously.
Yeah. So comparing this to a CMM, we can generally measure the same number of points. When we replace CMMs, we'll take their programs and run them right into our software and run the same points. We do correlation studies. We've done correlation studies against horizontal arm CMMs, and about 90% of our points are within 1/10 of a millimeter to a freshly calibrated horizontal arm CMM. We've also verified the system against third-party systems like the Enora system. It's a tetrahedral. We can measure it, and we typically do a little better than the freshly calibrated horizontal arm CMMs in tests like that. And compared to the long-range scanners that you're talking about, this system, the difference between this and those is that this focuses on particular points. So this is really more of a process control tool, where those would be used for reverse engineering or to establish a model of the environment, that sort of thing. This is really a metrology tool that can be used at distance.
Okay, and what kind of accuracy?
10 parts per million. So the easy way to think about that is at 1 meter, it starts at 2 meters. So We're about 20 microns at 2 meters, 3 meters, 30 microns, 4 meters, 40 microns.
Yeah, and that's typical of anything that uses a scan. Is the further out you get, the greater the error grows because of the just nature of the beast. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Well, John, Corporal, thanks for showing us around.
Thank you, Dirk.
Okay. Back to you, Mike.
Well, there you have it, a terrific tech corner there, right there, looking at a unique breakthrough technology. Many thanks to Nikon Metrology Senior Sales Specialist John Kopel for demonstrating the company's fast, accurate, and flexible laser radar solution. And Dirk, as always, nice job there with that technical demo.
Thank you.
Mike from
right
right across the booth there, yeah. And yeah, that's something we always like doing those in the shows like this.
It's fun, yeah.
Having a chance to get out and see some new technologies is always a great thing, and that's a really cool one from Nikon Metrology. Well, as I mentioned, we're nearing the end of today's show. Before we go, we would like to once again thank our host and sponsor, Nikon Metrology, who have graciously allowed us to take over their booth for the broadcast of this. That's right, they really take over their booth for the broadcast of this episode of Quality Digest Live. This year at IMTS, Nikon Metrology is showcasing their automation capabilities with a strong focus on inline inspection solutions, featuring their exclusive laser radar and laser scanner. If you're here in town for IMTS, be sure to stop by the Nikon Metrology booth right here at E5060, that's it, for a live demonstration of this innovative technology. And if you're not here at IMTS, well, you can find out more at www.nikonmetrology.com. It's right up there, back there somewhere.
That's right. Well, our third and final Quality Digest Live, QDL, from this year's IMTS will come to you from the booth of Mar Federal, that's booth E5614, where we'll be looking at a couple of surface and form measuring devices, so be sure to tune in and watch that. So that is it for today's episode
of Quality Digest Live.
Quality Digest Live, and we will see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you again, Nikon Metrology, for having us, and we'll see you tomorrow here at QDL.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.